Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here for Michelle Obama's new show, Later Daters, that's running on Netflix right now, y'all. It's going to be a total of 8 episodes. We are reviewing and recapping it, one episode or sometimes 2 episodes at a time. Right now, we are reviewing episodes 2 and 3. I already dropped episode 1 review. So depending on where you are, just let you know this recap review is for episodes 2 and 3 only. Please go back and watch my episode 1 because I think you're going to enjoy the show. I'm enjoying the show, y'all. I really like it. And like I've been explaining to everyone, it's not a competition show, which I like. It's more like blind dates. Blind dates, and also trying to teach these older, or should I say more seasoned ladies and men how to date in this new dating scene. So they have this behavioral specialist on here. I think her name is Logan. She's helping everybody out, giving them a few tips and pointers so they can get back on track. And I love it. I love it because they definitely can use some tips and pointers. They need some tips. So that's why I'm retitling this episode. I know they titled it You're on a Roll. That's what they titled number 2. I forget what number 3 was. But I'm retitling my review recap of episodes 2 and 3 called Later Daters Stuck in the Past. Stuck in the past. They trying to take it back, way, way back in this dating scene. Listen, let me tell you, time keeps marching forward, everyone. So if you're going to still be rocking and rolling in 2024, you're going to have to get rocking and rolling with 2024. We ain't got to lose everything we learned back in the 80s or the 70s. What are these these are baby boomers. So maybe they learned their dating back in the 70s. But you ain't got to lose everything you learned in the 70s and 80s. But you're going to have to upgrade a few things for sure. Everything can't stay stuck in the 70s and 80s. You're going to have to upgrade. So let's go ahead and get it together and start talking about what's going on. And what I want everybody to remember is what I thought when I was watching these episodes, that in order to move into the future, sometimes you got to let go of the past. Not all the time, but sometimes you got to let go of the past. And we do find a couple of these people stuck in the past. And the more that I watch Anise, I'm going to tell y'all, I'm impressed by her. I am impressed. I'm impressed by her physical condition. But in that, I've noticed a few things about Anise, and I do think she's a little bit stuck in the past too. So where we pick up on with Anise, we pick up on that last date she had with George. Remember George? It was a disaster date from episode 1. Well, this is the end of the date. And when the show comes back on, we see George picking his teeth because remember, Anise has gone to the restroom to get a little break from George. And he over there picking his teeth with a toothpick. That's definitely from the 70s or the 60s or 70s because that's nasty, George. That's nasty. But as soon as she comes back to the table, he quickly puts his little toothpick away because he has some food stuck in them dentures or something, or those dental implants. We know how we get older, we be needing some dental implants because them root canals done gone bad, and next thing you know, we got to pull it out and put in an implant. Who been there yet? Me. And I'm going to tell you, dental implants are expensive, y'all. I had to find me a little Chinese doctor that did it for a little bit cheaper because these other doctors, they was charging way too much money. But anyway, I digress. I'm telling too much of my personal business. Anyway, when she get back to the table, George is like, ooh, I like the way you walk. I like seeing you walk away. He goes, I just want to let you know I'm really attracted to you. George is creepy. George is creepy. And then he said something to Anise that made her really get offended when he said, you know what? You are a little bit ghetto. You are just a little bit ghetto. And he said she was offended. She goes, ooh, that's the first time anyone has ever said that to me. Because remember, Anise got a PhD and she thinks she high class. So she like, you know what? I've never been called ghetto. And he said, you know what? You can still be ghetto and be educated. You could be both. And I'm telling you right now, I think the word that George is using is the wrong word. He's calling Anise ghetto. But really what he's calling Anise is because she had on that F me dress. She had on that F me dress. And so what she did was she came off sexy, but it didn't come off like classy for a woman of her age. And what he did was he associated that dress, that F me dress, with being ghetto. It really wasn't the right word because I don't think that she's ghetto. But what he said was, I see this educated woman who's sophisticated, but yet she really is that. Let's just be honest. The dress was inappropriate. It was inappropriate. I know somebody gonna come up here and say 63-year-old women can wear mini skirts, but I don't know. I feel it was inappropriate, and as such, George called her ghetto because what he was saying was you should know how to dress. And I think he's saying that ghetto people don't have a level of sophistication. She may have a PhD, but I don't know if she's as sophisticated as we want to say she is. But she's trying to get out of there. She's trying to catch an Uber. He says, why are you trying to leave so fast? The night is still young. She goes, it ain't young enough. The night ain't young. You ain't young. And I'm trying to get the heck on out of here. And she says, what's that song from TLC? Scrubs. I don't want no scrubs. She says she don't have no time for no man like George. And she hops herself in that Uber and she gets the heck out of there. The heck out of there. So then she got to catch up with her daughter and tell her daughter how the date was. And she said, well, let me start with the good parts. The good parts was he had some dark skin, which she loved. She liked the silver hair, and he brought her some flowers, all those good things. He said, but after that, the date went downhill. She started running down to her daughter all those bad comments he made, those weird, off-putting comments about he only got one child that he knows of. Asking her, has she had any work done, cosmetic surgery? Asking her, does she have 3 baby daddies or all her kids by the same daddy? He was running out talking about he lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee, but he liked to F around in Atlanta. The hits kept coming, and then lo and behold, she told him, and he called me ghetto. He called me ghetto, and then he said, yeah, all you need to do is put on a blonde wig, and you will really be ghetto. And the daughter was offended. The daughter was like, well, wait a minute. Why are you judging a person in a blonde wig? Hello, daughter. I just got to tell you that you now are dealing with baby boomers. And women who wore blonde wigs back in the day, in the 70s, 80s, they were ghetto. I know it's fashionable now. I know that you guys have made it not ghetto, in the 2000s. But in the 70s and the 80s, it was considered ghetto. I hate to tell you. It was not only considered ghetto, it was also considered something that trans people do. The Roulant Mouge, what do you call the people? The burlesque shows. A lot of women don't realize that new women, new millennials, Gen Zs, whatever. I know you guys are putting new spins on things, like you put new spins on the N-word, you put new spins on blonde wigs or any color wigs. But the original, the only black people who really wore blonde wigs were gay men dressing up as women and ghetto women. So don't be judged when you hear an older person say a blonde wig is ghetto. Don't feel bad because that's where we came from. It was ghetto. I hate to tell you, it was ghetto. It was in LA, it was what the prostitutes wore on Figueroa Street. We call it Figueroa. That's what they wore on the corners. That's just what it looked like. So George is of that particular age where to him, a blonde wig is going to be considered ghetto. Now, hey, so you got to know who you're talking to so you don't get so offended, okay? But anyway, she said she done with George, as she should be, as she should be. But then we had to hop over here and we had to hear a little bit of Nate's date. Remember, Nate was the one that went out with Jackie. And I guess I was right. I had me a few predictions from episode 1 that he wasn't going to like Jackie because of the fact that she was going to be too religious. And I think that Nate has a little bit of a freak side in him. And that I believe what Nate is he's all covered up and buttoned up on the outside, probably a lot due to his military training. But on the inside, Nate's a little bit wild. He's wild. So he likes to present one way, but he want to freak in the bedroom. What's it called? What's it called? A wife in the sheets, but a freak in the streets. I don't know which. I messed up the saying. Y'all tell me what it is. Tell me what the saying is. I done messed it up. And my little senioritis brain can't get it back. But the minute he met with Jackie to tell Jackie how his date was, this girl, she was all hanging on every word to figure out what he thought of the woman. This is when you know a woman wants a man, because she's not just interested in hearing about the date overall and how it went. She wants to hear a whole lot of particulars about the woman, because what she's really doing is she says, you know what, I've been in love with you all this time and you really have put me in the friend zone. And what I need to know is what's so great about this woman that you like while I'm in the friend zone. So the minute Jackie meets with Nate, he can't even hardly sit down and start talking before she is peppering him with a whole bunch of questions like, where'd you go? What restaurant did you go to? Was she late or was she on time? What difference does that make? Was she late? Probably because you know that Nate is a prompt person and he hates women that are late. And so what you're trying to figure out is, did she gain a point with him or lose a point with him by being late? That's what she's trying to see. Is he not going to like her or like her depending on whether she was late or not? Is she my height or taller? Why you the reference point, Jackie? Why you the reference point on was she your height or taller? What you got to do with it? If you really just want to know her height, just say, what height is she? Why are you using yourself as a reference point? Because what Jackie is doing is she's comparing this woman to herself. You know, oh, how old is she? What about her career? What does she do? He's like, slow your roll. Slow your jelly roll, girl. Slow your jelly roll. Because really, Jackie, it don't matter whether he likes her or not. You still ain't got no chance. Jackie, it has been, since y'all was 20 years old, 36 years. He ain't going to choose you. I don't know what to tell you. He's not going to choose you. You know when Nate is going to choose Jackie? Nate is going to choose Jackie if he don't find a wife. And if he then becomes so old he can't get around, and he going to choose Jackie to be his nurse. That's when he's going to choose Jackie, because what he's going to know is Jackie's going to take care of him when he can't wipe his butt. He can't empty out his colostomy bag, right? He can't remember to take his blood pressure medicine. Then he's going to know that Jackie's a ride or die, and she's going to come over there and be his nurse. And she's going to feel like, oh, it was all worth it, waiting 40, 50 years for him to really see me. Now he really sees me. Girl, he sees you and he needs you. So anyway, he's telling her, she's saying, oh, does she check all your boxes with no children? First of all, is that one of your boxes, Nate? No children? Really? You out here 50-something years old talking about you want a woman that doesn't have any children? Because he has a child. Or is he saying he doesn't want a woman with younger children? Nate over here talking about he wants no children, a woman that's never been married. Why? Because what? You don't want to deal with an ex-husband or something? What is this about, Nate? You want a woman that's never been married, no children, works out, and who's educated? All this particularness of Nate, this is why he thinks he's so perfect. He wants like this perfect woman. He thinks he's so perfect. He thinks he dresses so nice. His house is so neat in order. He's so OCD. He wants the woman to be ordered. He don't want her coming in with zero baggage. No children as baggage. No ex-husband as baggage. He wants her to work out. He wants her to be educated. But then when she works out and says she likes to hike and do things outdoors, then all of a sudden that's too outdoors for him because he got a limp. He got a limp. Nate, man, you know what? I'm starting to have some feelings about you that's not so great, Nate. We're starting to see why you ain't got no woman out here. Then all of a sudden he tells Jackie, well, you know, basically when I asked her, does she like to pray? Next thing you know, she was darn near quoting scripture. I said it last week that question of do you like to pray was a trap question. It was a trap question. Ladies, beware of it. Beware of it. A lot of men are out here. They really don't want church women. They don't. So when they ask you, do you like to pray? A lot of women are thinking, ooh, that's so great. He's asking about that because I do like to pray. I do like to go to church. He's asking it as an elimination question. You think he's asking it because it's what he wants. No, he's asking it for an elimination question. And what Nate said was he does pray before meals, but he's a sometimes Christian. And what he was saying was that a lot of women of our age, of this age bracket, like to go to church a lot. And he ain't trying to do that no more. He said he used to, but he ain't trying to do it no more. That's why he got all them suits in the closet. He got all those suits in the closet because he used to wear them suits to church all the time. Them was some church suits because we already know he's a retired paratrooper. So he ain't wearing them suits jumping out no planes. Those were some old church suits that he likes to wear. And now he wears them out on dates. And when he asked that trick question to Latrice, he wanted to figure out, does she want to be in church every single Sunday? And what he said was, I don't want to be in church every single Sunday. I want to be a bedside Baptist. He called it a CNA, not a CNA nurse, but a Christian on a Christmas, New Year's, and Easter. Oh, he called it CNE, not CNA. Look at me with my old age. He called it a CNE, Christian, a Christian on Christmas, New Year's, and on Easter. And so he really don't want a woman that's trying to live her life without sin. Because like I told you, Nate want a little bit of sin in his life. Come on now. He's an Omega, y'all. He is an Omega. He said, I ain't get rid of these dog days, even in my older age. And let me tell you, a limp ain't going to stop me. Just because I got a limp walking around don't mean I got a limp in the bedroom. Get it, Nate. Get it, Nate. Get it, Nate. So he's getting all ready because he said he's going to go on a second blind date and he gets to practice more being vulnerable. Well, I don't really know if it's called vulnerable. I know the behavioral scientist has said, I want you to share something where you're more vulnerable. But really where the behavioral scientist is going to need to get Nate is I want you to start learning. I want you to start sharing more of what are some of your flaws, because I also want you to be more accepting of other people's flaws. Because see, what Nate does is he don't like to present his flaws, right? Now, maybe you could say that's because he doesn't want to be vulnerable because presenting flaws opens you up to criticism. Maybe you could say that. But I think you need to be a little bit more specific with Nate. I think you need to say not be vulnerable because then he's picking and choosing what he wants to talk about. No, I want you to start sharing more things in which you're not perfect. Because once you get in touch with your own imperfections, maybe you'll have a little bit of grace for someone else's. Because right now, Nate is walking around thinking he's darn near perfect. And so therefore, he's trying to require that from other women. That's why he don't like Jackie, because Jackie ain't perfect, but neither is no woman. And once he sees your imperfection, once he sees your flaws, it turns him off. It turns him off. Then he wants to go on and look for the next perfect woman. We need to know why Nate and his ex-wife broke up. We need more of that story. So if he's going to be vulnerable and he's going to open up, that's the story I want to hear on dates. What made Nate's marriage fall apart after 16 years? Who left who and why? Did he tell us that woman cheated on him? I know he had a fiance that cheated on him. I'm kind of thinking that the ex-wife might have had some infidelity too. You know what? Maybe it's because he put people down so bad they need to go somewhere else and start to feel good about themselves. Sometimes when you're with a person who always puts you down, always telling you what's wrong with you, never telling you enough of what's right for you, then when you go out in the world and people come around you and give you a compliment, it feels good. It feels good because you get so much criticism at home. You get so much of a person telling you, you're not doing this right. This not right. This got, criticizing maybe the way you cook, criticizing the way you clean, criticizing the way you dress, whatever it is. Then you go out in the world and somebody telling you your cooking is good, your dressing is good, everything look good. It feels good. It feels good to get someone who approves of you, who compliments you. And then what happens is that turns into infidelity. That's what turns. So maybe Nate ought to figure out why all the women he gets with, married to, get driven into the arms of another man. That might be what he needs to figure out. That might need to do some work he wants to do. So last week I was thinking, oh, they're never going to put Nate and Anise together. And lo and behold, this week they end up putting them together on a date. So I said, oh my goodness, this ought to be interesting. This ought to be interesting. The woman who darn near thinks she's perfect, which is Anise, paired up with the man who's looking for perfection. Woo, let's see how this is going to go. My prediction, if I had to put money on it, was it wasn't going to go well. And in the end, they weren't a fit. But they went out together. And the minute Anise walked in, Nate had the expression and that most people would have when they saw Anise. He said, oh my goodness, she looked fabulous. And he brought her some flowers. And this time, Anise went a little bit more conservative. She had on a nice jumper, fit her very nicely. I thought it was much more appropriate. I think she looked fabulous in it. And but it fell apart real quickly when she found out that Nate was 56 and she was 62, or more so when he found out she was 62. And all of a sudden, reality hit Anise. And the reality is, I don't care how good you look as a 62-year-old. I don't care how good you look. There's just a lot of men who are not going to want to date an older woman. They're just not. And what Nate said was, I've never dated an older woman. And really what he was saying in that moment, he doesn't want to date one. And this is what I talk about when I say about sort of over improving yourself in one area. And then what you feel is that you're not getting the access to things that you think you should by all the work you put in. And I don't know, I guess a good metaphor to be used is, have any of you guys ever gone house shopping and you come across a house in a neighborhood, the house is fabulous. There's a whole lot of extras on the house. The people have really redone the house. They put in fantastic countertops, cabinets in the kitchen. They really outdid themselves, but they want like 30% more for that house than the other houses in the neighborhood. So they're trying to ask you to pay a premium for that house, because what they did was they put a whole lot of extras in the house. And they said, well, we spent, an additional $200,000 upgrading this house. And so now what they want you to do is they want you to pay for all those upgrades. And you're saying, well, I don't want to pay for all these upgrades because then I would have bought the most expensive house in the neighborhood. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And so a lot of times what happens to those homes are people have over improved their homes. And sometimes in order just to sell that house, they got to take a loss on the house, right? They did $300,000 in upgrades, but maybe they can add an extra $100,000 on the house, but that's probably it. So eventually they just lose the whole $200,000. That's what happens in real estate. That's what's called you've over improved your home. And in a lot of ways, that's where Anise is. I don't want it to sound harsh or anything. That's just the only metaphor I could think of. Is like I said, she's 62 years old, and in the world of 62 years olds, she's at the top of the chain in terms of how she's improved her body. She, her physical look, right? And so she wants top dollar for it. But the problem is that people are not going to pay top dollar for it. So she can't think that just because she's over improved in this area, that she now can, neglect other parts of her life. And so she's thinking that this 56-year-old man is going to be comfortable or okay with her being 62. And some men will be. There are some men who don't care that you're an older woman. They're willing to date you, but a lot of them aren't. So, and one of them is going to be Nate. He's not interested in it. So then she starts peppering him with a whole lot of questions. Now, what I noticed about Anise, which is different from George, is that when she was sitting with George, she didn't really ask George a lot of questions. And the reason she didn't ask George a lot of questions is because she didn't really like George. She didn't like George. So she really wasn't interested in too much of learning about him because she didn't like him. When Anise saw Nate, she initially liked him. She liked what he saw. He was suited, he was booted, he brought flowers, he was a good presentation. These two make good presentations. Nate makes a good presentation, and so does Anise. So what I noticed about Anise is that once she has an initial liking of you, she goes into executive interview mode. She starts asking you a lot of questions. So all of a sudden, I noticed that the way that she was interacting on the date wasn't loose. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't cheerful. She started entering into sort of like, I want to say, interview mode, because now she's going down her list of questions, right? And her list of questions are going to be for things that are important to her. And one of the things they started talking about was, I think she asked, do you like to work out? I can't remember if she asked or he asked. One of them said, I think she said, do you like to work out? And he said that he did or whatever. And she said, yeah, she likes to walk 8 miles 5 days a week. So I already know that Anise likes Nate, And what she's going to start doing is she's going to ask him questions. And then what she's going to do, she's going to answer the questions to show where her stature is, right? So in this particular situation, even if she says she likes to work out, do you like to work out? Yeah, I do enjoy working out. I like to stay fit. That's really where she could have left it. But what she likes to do is say, yeah, I walk 8 miles a day, 5 days a week. Okay, Anise, you know what? Okay, Anise, go ahead. Because most people just want to know, do you work out? Do you work out? We could tell you work out because we can see you're fit. But she wanted to go an extra step and say how much she works out. It goes back to the same thing that when she was talking about her degrees, her PhD. She just doesn't tell people that she's educated. Anise likes to tell them that she has a PhD because what she wants you to do is she wants you to realize what her worth is, right? What she's doing is she's telling you, just like I gave you that analogy about the house, I just want to let you know that this marble is imported from Italy. I just want to tell you that these floors that we have here, we imported the wood all the way from Australia, right? I just want to tell you that all this gold, we have these gold trimmings, we got it from Russia. You see, what she's doing is she's not just pointing out and letting you see that there are nice floors or that the countertops are marble. She wants to tell you exactly where it came from. And so what she does is, no, I don't just work out. I run 8 miles a day, 5 days a week. I climb mountains. I'm just not educated. I went to community college, bachelor, master's, and a PhD. You're right. So then she says, do you like to travel? I don't get to say, yeah, I just like to travel. I like to travel. And I went to Bali for 2 weeks. You see? So this little stuff she told the behavioral scientist that men are intimidated by her education. And I said last week, I'm not buying it. Now you're getting a little bit more glimpse about Anise. And Anise leads with she's the shit. And I'm not saying that you can't think of yourself as being the shit, but people don't want to be in a conversation with you where your whole conversation is about what you did, what you accomplished, you. Because really what Anise is trying to do is run up her price. Because once she runs up her price on this whole package, she now can come to you and say, this is what I want from you because look how much I'm worth. The problem is Anise is putting the price tag on herself, and really the market dictates what the price is, right? I'm going to tell you how much it's worth. And what Nate is telling her is that, first of all, he could care less if you climb Mount Kilimanjaro, wherever she climbed, because what he's saying is, I don't even want to climb no mountains like that because I can't do that at all. So here is Anise run up her price tag of how she hikes and climbs mountains. And he said, well, that's kind of a negative to me because I can't do it with you because I got a limp, right? So then she says, oh, and I went to Bali and spent 2 weeks there. He said, that's good because I'm not going nowhere for 2 weeks. He said he don't even really travel that much. You know, and it's okay because what she can realize is that they're not compatible, right? Which is important. But in a lot of ways, she's got to be careful who she has this conversation with, because in a lot of ways, it can also be a turnoff. Because even if people have done what she's done or been where she's been, they could still look at her as a person who likes to brag. And that could be a turnoff, right? That every time you've done something, someone's got to tell you what they did. You ever have a friend like that? And someone says, girl, where you been? I haven't talked to you last week. And you say, oh yeah, we were out of town. And they go, oh, well, where do you go? And you go, oh, we went to Bali for a week or so. And then instead of them asking about your trip, instead of them asking about, oh, did you have a good time? What did you guys do? Instead of them being, interested in you, they quickly flip the story to be about, oh yeah, I went to Australia 2 weeks. We had a good time. We did this and this and this. And next thing you know, the entire conversation is about them and their trip that they took last year. You just got back. So you think you'd have a conversation about what you did, but instead, all of a sudden, the conversation is about what they did last year, just so they could talk and brag about themselves. I'm starting to get those vibes from Anise. I really am. So then she starts peppering him some more core questions, asking him, well, did you retire from the military? And he said, oh, I got out of the military basically through disability because I broke my back and I tore up my knee. Nate, I know you want a freak in the sheets, but with your broke back and your tore up knee, I don't know what kind of positions you gonna be doing. You ain't gonna be doing too much, Nate. You want this is another thing. He want this freak in the sheets. He want all this. He want a non-church lady, and Nate, boy, she gonna have to be on top all the time because there ain't gonna be too much you could do. Not too much. Talk about put your back into it. He ain't gonna be able to put no back into it, ladies. He over here asking for stuff he can't even deliver on. Boy, oh boy. And so he started telling Anise, hey, you know what? That is a lot of times he kind of shrinks from talking to women because he says, hey, when I meet active women, I can't really go kayaking and hiking and cycling with them because I got a broke back and a bad knee. Well, there you go, Nate. So here you are over here wanting a woman who works out, who's really fit and who's really active. But yet, if she's really fit and she's really active and likes to be outdoors, you really can't even enjoy it with her. So why is that a criteria of yours? I could understand that you don't want a woman who's obese and overweight. Then just say that, but you don't have to say she's got to work out. There are a lot of women who are shapely, who look good, who've been able to control their weight, who still have good figures, but that doesn't mean they go and work out every single day. So why are you saying that? Because you can't really even enjoy that woman. This is what I'm saying. People don't see themselves out here. They want a particular person, but does that person want them? Why does a woman who likes to go hiking and cycling and biking and do all this outdoor activities, why would they want to be with Nate and Nate got a broke back and a bad knee? This don't make no sense. Anise tried to help him out and said, hey, maybe you're discarding women too quickly because even though you can't do all those things, maybe they could do those things with their friend, right? And then do other things with you. That would be good, Anise, if it wasn't one of his criterias, right? The problem is it's one of his criterias, right? It's different if a woman, it was her criteria, and she said, well, you know what, I'll still do that with my friends, but over here we could do more, things that aren't as strenuous. But the problem is, it's actually Nate walking around talking about he wants a woman that likes to work out all the time. Boy. This don't make no sense. It really doesn't make any sense. So, the date is kind of just going so. They talk about where they're from. We hear that Nate is from Florida and Anise is from Arkansas. She grew up on a farm, or I think she told me she grew up on a farm. And that's when she starts telling him, really it's Dr. Anise because I got a PhD. She said, but I didn't really want to say nothing because I didn't want to come off as bragging. Girl, you was bragging the whole other time. But he says, no, it's okay because that's what I want. I want someone who's educated. And he leaned over and gave her a high five. And, she lit up like a Christmas tree. And he says, as long as you can start explaining these big words to me when you start using them and everything. But she may not be using no big words just because she got a PhD because all of a sudden now I don't realize that Anise ordered some chicken wings on a first date. And then I was like, oh, now we know what George was talking about when he said she got a little ghetto in her. Because let me tell you something. Don't order no chicken wings on a first date, ladies. Don't order nothing on a first date where you got to eat with your fingers. The minute you on a first date and you ordering something where you eat with your fingers, I automatically know you're not all the way high class. You're not high class. You done giving yourself away. So maybe this is what George was talking about when he says you do got a little bit of ghetto in you. And she says, oh, it's the first I ever heard of it. No, it might be the first you ever heard of it, but it might also be something that someone never told you, Anise. Because I'm going to tell you right now that ordering chicken wings on a first date, if you're trying to exude class, I'm just saying, if what you're trying to exude is class and sophistication, that was a dead giveaway that you're not all the way there yet. I'm just telling y'all, anybody out there who's trying to be classy and sophisticated, I just want to let you know, the minute you order chicken wings on a first date, and the minute you order anything that you got to eat with your fingers or your hands, unless you at a cultural restaurant like an Indian restaurant or an African restaurant, and that's what the culture does, they eat with their hands. Other than that, you're not going to be able to be called class and sophistication. Sorry. You done lost your ability to be called that. You done lost it. But Then they start talking a little bit more, and this is where they get to the part where now she starts to get even more turned off because he starts talking about how he is a homebody and he's really boring. All he like to do is sit at home on and watch ESPN. And she said, "Oh, I'm not no homebody. I like to be out in the street going around because she's very extroverted." And he says, well, he likes to be introverted. And he said, well, don't worry because you know what? As good as you look, if you decide you want to go out, then there ain't no way I'm going to let you go out by yourself. I'm going to be with you. That ain't going to last, Anise. Don't believe him. Don't believe him. If he don't like to go out now or when you get with him, he may go out with you in the beginning, but he would just end up being in his old habits and he'll be right there sitting at home, sitting home. You start to kind of see how relationships with Nate could fall apart, right? Nate got a whole lot of criteria that he wants of women. No kids, never been married, works out. You know, he wants this educated woman. He wants this vibrant woman. But then when you think about what he's offering, it doesn't even really match the woman. You want a vibrant woman, but you want to sit at home all day? Well, what's she supposed to do with all that energy? You want a woman that works out, but you got a bum back and a bum knee? You know what I'm saying? You want a woman that dresses well, but you don't want to do nothing but sit at home on the couch and watch ESPN. The two don't even go together. What he wants and what he's offering, it's two different things. It's two different things. Yeah, this is not going nowhere. I think they respected each other. I think they had a good conversation and they both were talking about how the date was good. And, you know, he said, oh, she was very inquisitive, which means she was asking a lot of questions. He don't want to be asked a lot of questions. But in the end, when they were away and he started talking to the expert and he would start talking to Jackie, he told her, hey, you know what? She wouldn't be a person that I would pursue her in the long term because he don't really want to be with a older woman. And if you notice the wording that he used, he said he wouldn't pursue her in the long term. Basically, what he's saying is I could go out with her. I probably could sleep with her. But in the long term, I wouldn't really be with her. And this is the problem with a lot of women that happens to a lot of women in dating. There are a lot of men who are willing to date you for the short term in the meantime, just to keep them busy and occupied. But what they're saying is you would really never be a long-term match for me. But I would take you out. You have good conversation. Like he had good conversation with Anise. So if this were the real world, he might even take Anise out on the second date. They might actually go out and enjoy dinner together. But long term, he wouldn't want to be with her and her vice versa. You know, when she ended up going back and talking to her daughter, she kind of talked to her daughter about it. And her daughter was asking her, well, did you give him the telephone number or something? And she said she didn't do it. But after the day was over and she had her little confessional, she said, oh, he's in the ballpark range. As long as he's in his 50s, she's okay. She doesn't want anyone in her 30s and 40s. And once again, there you go. There you go. So Anise is saying, you know, she's 62, but she looks like she's in her 50s. So she wants to be able to have the possibility of dating a man in her 50s. She thinks she out here, what's the Kardashian mother's name? With her younger man. She ain't got Kardashian. She ain't got, what's her name? Not Kate, Christian. What's that mama's name? She ain't got that kind of money to be over there flying that young man around and he in her 40s. So I don't know, Anise. Anise is kind of a little bit in a delusional world too. But hey, like I said, I think there are younger men who will go out with Anise, and there are some men that also would even consider a marriage and long-term relationship with Anise because I think that she's a nice woman, but I think it's such a small portion of her dating pool, it's going to be really hard for her. I think she can get men who would date her for a little bit, but long-term, in their 50s, I don't know. She's got a lot to offer, but I kind of feel like she over-improved her house and she spent all this money on this house, which is her. She kind of now feels like if she accepts anything less, she's going to be settling. I think that's how she feels. Unfortunately, there's that word again, settling, not realizing that people are settling on you. You see? So, but Nate tells Jackie the story. So Jackie's happy. Jackie's happy, y'all. Jackie is happy to hear that this ain't gonna be no long term because here comes Jackie stopping by the house again. Again. Girl, Jackie probably gonna leave a toothbrush over there. Toothbrush. She asked so many, many questions. And then when Anise went home to tell her daughter about it, even though he was saying that he didn't really want to go out with Anise again, she was someone leaving the door open. And the daughter asked her, well, did he text you? And or did she text him or something? I think she said no. I'm trying to read my notes. I got it mixed up. But the point the daughter was making is that Anise is kind of dating by some old rules, showing that she's showing her boomerness by not either texting the man and showing that she's interested and or not really want to be the person to ask, do you want to go out again? Well, actually, daughter, Anise is probably right, because if he didn't text her back, then that means he doesn't want to go out with her. So in a lot of ways, a lot of these people are trying to tell boomers to be more aggressive and more assertive, which I believe that's true, but you also have to know how to read the room. And what the daughter is thinking, that Anise should have gone ahead and made the first move and gone ahead and asked him out again. But it actually worked out better in Anise's favor because he don't really want to go out with her again. He don't really want to go out. So the young people, you guys got one part. You got one part in saying, hey, you don't always have to be the one waiting for the man to make the first move. Got it. Got it. That's the new thing. Got you. Got you. But in the other way is you young people don't know how to read a room. So what you do is older people never ask the guy. And then what you guys feel is if you can always ask the guy, where there's problem on both ends, because unless you know how to read a room, you don't really know if that man is interested in you. And what the daughter was assuming was that the man was interested in Anise, but she don't realize that he was not interested in her. Not long term. Not long term. He want to date other people. And so the mother was telling her daughter, Anise was telling her daughter, listen, that's not my comfort zone. And the daughter saying, well, you got to get out of your comfort zone. And then what Anise had to do was flex a little bit more and says, listen, when I was dating multi-million-dollar moguls, there go that flex. There goes that Anise flex, where she wants to tell you what caliber of man she's used to dating. What? While you was eating chicken wings with your fingers? And so then her daughter called her out on it. She said, well, wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute. So you telling me we over here are struggling and we could be living a whole lot better because did you fumble the bag with a multi-million-dollar mogul? There you go, daughter, call her out on it. If you have dated multi-million-dollar moguls, where you at? Where you at? What's all this flexing? And that's what I mean. When Anise gets in a situation where she starts to feel maybe someone maybe not looking at her as the best thing since sliced bread, what she needs to do is then flex on you. She needs to tell you, you got to know who you dealing with. So when her daughter started telling her that you don't really know how to date right, Anise decided in this moment, I'm going to flex on my daughter and tell her, listen, I know how to date right. I done dated multi-million-dollar moguls. And her daughter clapped back and says, so what if you dated them? You must have fumbled the bag. You see, when Anise feels uncomfortable or starts to feel on par or equal or maybe even criticized, what she does is she flexes on you. And what she does, like I said, in this date, she started to flex on Nate with her degrees and her travel and her working out. Those were all flexes. You think it's just her, she trying to tell you a little about herself for you to get to know her, but they're flexes. There's a difference. There's one thing to tell someone about yourself because it becomes part of the conversation versus making it a point of saying, I want to say this one thing, so I want you to know that I can flex up on this. She needs to be careful about that. She really needs to be careful because once you get a man who can flex himself, then what you end up being with is in competition with your man. Because imagine a man that has done all the things that Anise has. Anise thinks that it's then going to be about, oh, He gonna flex and talk about his travel, then I'm gonna flex. He gonna talk about how he work out, then I'm a flex. And actually, a man who has all those things is not gonna enjoy that type of conversation. No man wants to be in competition with the woman he's with. Not at all. Not at all. So, like I said, Anise gonna need some real counseling when it comes to dating, because I think she doesn't know the difference between conversation and letting someone get to know you versus flexing. I think she flexes a lot, a lot. So Anise finds out that she's going to go out on another date. And on this date, she finds out that the guy is going to be a white guy. And so she starts talking about how she multidimensional. And you know what? She's like, okay, I don't always have to lead. You don't always have to lead, Anise, but you always have to flex. You do. I see it already. So she says she's a corporate woman, but she knows also how to be in her singleness. And she's dated white guys before. But I don't think she said she's ever gone out on a second date with a white guy. And then she and her daughter start having this little conversation about the time when her daughter liked a little white boy when she was a young child, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And she was like, that's fine, but you need to bring me home some black babies, some black babies. So they were having a little fun with that. And, Anise was, talking about how she really wants a man who's outgoing, because men can sometimes want to have things the same way all the time. That can get a little bit boring to her. And then she starts flexing one more time and telling her daughter, I need to get ready because I'm about to go on a date with some wine and caviar. There go that flex, Anise. There go that flex. Girl, you can't stay away from it. You can't stay away from it. So anyway, Anise ends up going out on this date with Bill. Bill ends up being 55. He's also been divorced twice. He's been single now for 2 years. He's got 2 kids, and he has a tech startup company. So they end up going out for some wine and caviar, and Anise is stuffing this caviar down her throat like it's a deviled egg. Like it's a deviled egg. She eating it all up. She goes, well, I'm out here eating some wine and caviar. This is right up my alley. And she can eat with her fingers and it's okay. Yep. She can eat with her fingers and it's okay. And come to find out that Bill is actually English. And he says she's dressed well and she's very confident. But you know what he didn't say? Beautiful. He didn't say it. He didn't say it. So I'm not for sure that Bill is actually physically attracted to Anise. I'm not for sure yet, because in his confessional, like I said, he just said that she was dressed well and she was confident, but what he didn't say was beautiful. And they start having a little bit of conversation, and Anise brings up the fact of, hey, how do you feel about, you were going out on this blind date and then all of a sudden you find out that she's a black woman. And Bill had to, correct her. Bill had to correct her and said, well, the truth of the matter is I only date black women. There you go, Bill. There you go. You see, Anise is kind of giving away her. I know she wants to come off as this completely sophisticated woman, but this is another indication of where she's kind of revealing that maybe she doesn't have as much of that, because if for her to assume that she was the only black woman that he's only gone out with, or that he was even the first black woman, is limiting in your mind. So what you just revealed, because, sophistication comes with an expansion of mind, experiences, different things. So when you come into a situation and you assume something that Anise assumed, which was that he's never dated a black woman, even a date, then what you've done is you've limited your mind. And once you've revealed to me that your mind is limited in that fashion, I'm going to take away some sophistication points. And what Bill had to tell her at the very end was that, no, you're not the first black woman I've ever gone out on a date with. In fact, I only date black women. Boom. There you are. There you are. So, Anise, girl, your price is too high out here. You out here thinking you all that, girl. I'm telling you, you showing your hand at a lot of different areas. A lot of different areas you are really showing your hand. So at this point in time, I actually want Anise to a little bit humble herself a little bit more on these dates. I do. I know the scientist told her, I want you to talk about your PhD more, but I think Anise needs to actually humble herself a bit more to be able to talk about herself, be proud of what she does, but not look at it as if her experiences or what she's done is so unique and is so much more value than other people's, because that is really what I'm starting to get from Anise, unfortunately. And if I'm getting it on the screen, if a man is on a date with her, they'll also get it. They'll also get it. So in this episode, Nate doesn't end up getting the second date. And he's just talking about how, he's so picky and he gets very lonely. I know you do, because picky people can go hungry, and picky people can go lonely, right? When you real picky, guess what? When you a picky eater, people don't want to cook for you. And when you real picky with things you like, people don't want to hang out with you. And that creates a lonely life, because you really don't know how to get along with people unless they're exactly like you. You become too difficult to integrate with. It's not worth it. And that's what Jackie was saying, that when people aren't just like Nate, they get on his nerves. And so they show him walking around the house, closing his drapes for the night. Why are you closing the drapes? You got blinds that close. You got drapes on top of blinds, and you got to close the curtains and the blinds. Maybe that would bother me. Why are you running around closing all the drapes and the blinds? Go to bed. Go to bed, Nate. So then he starts talking about he's gonna go out on this next date, and he's telling Jackie, "Yeah, I'm getting ready to go on this next date. I'm picking out my new outfit." And Jackie was like, "Ooh, wear what you got on. Just bring your zipper down a little bit. Show some of your chest, girl." Jackie, girl, you ain't fooling nobody. You are not fooling anybody. And the fact that this man is trying to pretend like he don't know it too, get out of here. Get out of here. She talking about drop your zipper on your shirt and show a little bit more of your chest. He said he realizes now that his pickiness and rigidness is probably hindering him and his opportunities. You don't think. Duh. So he said when he goes out on his next dates, what he's going to try to do is not go out with any prejudgments. Prejudgment, you not only need to not have no prejudgments, you need to not have no judgments, period, even when you want on the date. Woo! Yet this show is saying that a lot of people have been stuck in some old dating techniques. And forget about dating. This is even just getting along with people, because when you're rigid and you like all things one way, forget about dating. People don't even want to hang out with you because you're too rigid. It becomes difficult to even hang out with you because what they got to do is always bend to your way, and people don't want to do that all the time. They just gonna want to go out with you sometimes. But after we got watching Anise and Nate, we were able to switch on over here and come back and watch Suzanne. Remember, Suzanne is full of energy. We get to go through Suzanne's house again. Her house looks nice. Her house is all white. Her dogs are white. Her house looked like something out of Pottery Barn, that's for sure. And she said her last date, Frank liked her. He reached out onto her on Facebook, and she basically ghosted him. Suzanne out here talking about she got a lot of options. I don't know if you do, Suzanne. You are nice. I like Suzanne. I think she got a wonderful personality. Suzanne is 63, but I ain't gonna lie, Suzanne looked like she in her 70s. Her personality is of a young person, but on the outside, I don't know. She looked like she in her 70s. To me, that's just what I'm saying. But she figured out what I figured out last episode, that in order for Frank to have young kids like that, he liked younger women. And that's what Suzanne said. And Suzanne said she don't want to be with no man with young kids. And she also don't want to be with no man who likes younger women. And that's Frank. And that's what I said last week. Especially no younger woman that even looks older, because Suzanne is the same age as Anise, and Suzanne looks at least 10 years older than Anise. Come on now, let's be real about it. So they end up setting her up on another date with this man named Avery. Avery is 59. He's divorced, single for 10 years, and he's got 3 kids, and he's a financial advisor. So one thing we know that at any time that Suzanne goes out on a date, she gonna have a good time. She gonna have a good time, and because she likes to talk, she has a lot of conversation. And he's saying, oh, he likes to play sports. He likes football, basketball, and baseball. And we know that Suzanne don't care about nothing except them Georgia Bulldogs football. That's it. I don't even know if she likes Georgia basketball, but I know she likes Georgia Bulldog football. And she was happy to see him because he was tall and he was more handsome than Frank in her eyes, her last date. But she says, where are my roses? Where are my roses? Suzanne gonna have to get used to this new dating pool. We know Suzanne was married for 27 years. She ain't been out here in the dating scene for a long, long time. And I think she's getting shocked at what's out here. And then they start talking about folks with bad knees. They age talking about, have you had any surgery on your knees? Last date, she had the conversation about getting your eye lifts. Now they over here talking about surgery on the knees. Is this the conversation people be having, surgery on the knees? So he starts telling her that he's a financial advisor and, he's listening to what she talks. And so she believes that he's a little bit mysterious. He ain't mysterious. You just seem to do all the talking, Suzanne. But they both have really good personalities. And then once again, we get to this little petty stuff she got going. He says he's an Alabama Roll Tide fan. And of course, she's a Georgia Bulldog. And all of a sudden, it's a big problem. Like I said, Anise, just go to a booster dinner. Go to an alumni event. I don't know. Just go hang out on campus or something. Because at this point in time, girl, this is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. And then once again, she brings up that little corny line about, I was reading a good book by Matthew McConaughey. Girl, stop it. Where is the expert? You need to give her another thing to talk about. Last time she was talking about a podcast with Matthew McConaughey or something. And now all of a sudden she's talking about a book by Matthew McConaughey. No, Suzanne, drop this one. Where is the dating coach? She need to give her some new things to talk about. But they both felt that they were both easy to talk to. They had a good time. He definitely wants to go out with her again. And then they were asking her, well, did you tell him you wanted to go out with him again? And she didn't. She says, well, I can't tell you yet if I want to go out with you. And they're like, oh, that's so old school. That's so old school. You can tell a man that you're interested. Now, this part I do agree with. Boomers, you got this part wrong. I understand that maybe in the old days, you were supposed to play more coy, more hard to get, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but that don't work. That don't work no more because men are tired of taking all the risk in relationships. They're tired of the ones always going out on a limb and risking their ego getting hurt. So when a man expresses that he wants to go out with you again or he's interested in, you absolutely have to be able to say, I enjoyed the date too, and I would love to go out again. All this playing hard to get, girl, at 63, Suzanne, this is ridiculous. So this part, yeah, you out of date. You are out of touch with dating. And ain't no need to be acting like you mysterious or playing hard to get. You better let that man know I'm interested. Yes, let's go out again. I had a lovely time. That don't mean you got to jump his bones and be all over him. But geez Louise, that was really, really, really outdated. Outdated. And in the end, they actually had to trick her to be able to tell him that she wanted to go out again. If you guys noticed, if you watched the episode, in one way, they went to Avery and said, hey, Avery, Suzanne really wants your telephone number because she wants to go out with you again. Is that okay? And he was all happy because what he was really thinking was that she was the one initiating it. And then they went over to Suzanne and said, hey, Suzanne, Avery really wants to go out with you again. He wants your number. And so then she was excited. So really what they had to do was they had to intervene with these baby boomers so that they both felt comfortable that they both were interested in each other. So in the end, let's say that these matchmakers weren't here. These two would have never approached each other or gone back maybe because they didn't have the confidence to know that, no, when you're interested, or not the confidence because they really have confidence, you have to let the people know. So I was glad they intervened. This was a perfect example how the matchmakers came in here and helped them get to the next level. And so it looks like the two of them are going to be going out again. But he asked her to go out on the Saturday, and she said, well, I can't go out on Saturday because I got a Georgia Bulldog a playing. Girl, oh my goodness. Luckily, Avery said maybe we can accommodate that. Maybe y'all can go to a sports bar and watch the game. I don't know. Maybe you got season tickets to the game? Maybe that could be your date. Go to a Georgia football game with your season tickets. I know you a booster. I know you a booster, Suzanne. Gone over there. Good Lord. Good Lord. So I was glad that the experts intervened, and I guess we're going to get to see their date, like later on. And then we get introduced to this woman named Pam. Good Lord. Pam is 70 years old, and I really don't know how to describe Pam. Pam reminds me of, I don't know if any of you guys are watching that show with me. We used to watch that show, was Love Before Lockup, and that one lady was, I forget her name, Christine, and she was always like this, jittery everywhere. I was like, and she had gone to prison or jail because she was on drugs. And she came out and she was still like this. I could say, is she still doing drugs? Because Pam reminds me of that, y'all. And somebody, I forget who it was, one of my viewers, I think it was Bob, would tell me that a lot of people who used to be on them old psychedelic drugs, they still be having some of them jitters. I ain't gonna call Pam a recovering drug addict or nothing, but I'm telling you, all this mind disjointedness and everywhere, unless you got some undiagnosed ADHD. That's probably what it is, because remember, Pam's generation, they didn't get diagnosed with no ADHD, but I think Pam got a little bit of ADHD, something going on. She all over the place. So let me not say she was doing some psychedelic drugs, but she was in that rock and roll era. Her ex-husband was like, a real touring in a band and everything, a rock and roll band with the Beatles and everybody else. And back then in them days, they was doing a whole lot of them psychedelic drugs and stuff. So I don't know. But anyway, she was married twice, but she's been single for the last 15 years. And she lives way outside, 54 miles outside of Atlanta. And she said they just got internet out there. Good Lord. So you got Pam, who has been living really pretty much alone. She lives with her granddaughter, but her granddaughter is about to get married. So now all of a sudden she's looking at this life where maybe she might be alone out there. But she lived 54 miles outside of Atlanta, and they just got internet. And she's been spending all this time her alone. This is not healthy. This is not healthy. She used to be married to a rock and roll singer, and her career was she was a flight attendant. So for most of her life, she was gone most of the time. So maybe it's okay that she lived out there, because for 21 days of the month, she was always flying as a flight attendant. And come to find out, she wasn't a flight attendant with like JetBlue or Southwest. She was a flight attendant for one of these private jet company with Warren Buffett. So she was the flight attendant for high class people. She said she got tired of them snooty people talking about their caviar wasn't cold enough. She said she got tired of them people about their caviar not being cold enough. So she ended up quitting her job as a flight attendant. But prior to her being a flight attendant, she ended up marrying a rock singer. And back then when she was younger, she quit her job. She was traveling with him all around the world while he was playing in bands in England. And she said her whole family disowned her because of the fact that she married this man and quit her job. Really? Your whole family disowned you over that? That's really sad to hear. So a part of Pam tells me that she's used to this life of being alone. And now I think it's starting to really wear on her. And now at 70 years old, she's trying to enter into a relationship. But boy, she's having a hard time of even being able to have a conversation with the person, because she's so used to just hearing her own thoughts, hearing her own voice, being in her own world in which she lives. Once someone comes into her space, she doesn't know how to make room for them. And wow. I tell you, this first date that she had, she was off the chain. Now, Logan ends up coming out and visiting her at her house. And one of the things Logan talks about is that Pam's house is a shrine to the past. And I would have to agree. All of Pam's stories are about her past, all the rendezvous, all the wonderful things she did with her two ex-husbands, and her second husband also passed away. I think she was married to him for 21 years, and everything in the house is sort of like a shrine to her past. And what Logan said was pretty much that the house feels almost like it's haunted by all these ghost stories. And that's what she likes to talk about because she really hasn't had any new stories to replace it. When the truth of the matter is, she probably has a lot of news stories because she traveled around the world on these private jets with, Warren Buffett people and rich Warren Buffett. I bet she has a lot to talk about, but instead of talking about more interesting current stories, she starts telling all these ghost stories. And then I think what she also does is she talks about maybe some of the things that she's read. But boy, I feel like she reads a lot of negative stuff because her mindset really can go to the negative real fast. Instead of looking at life with a glass half full, she comes off as a person who looks at life with a glass half empty. Her conversation can be real negative at times, real negative. So it becomes negative. It becomes disjointed. She talks a lot. She's fidgeting. She makes me uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. She makes me uncomfortable and she makes my head hurt. Both. So she tells us she hasn't had a date in 16 years. 16 years. And she's very uncomfortable living in the present. So I think that's why she kind of always focuses on the past. And so the behavioral scientist says, well, you can't do that. You're going to have to be more in the present. So I want you to start telling more current stories. So they set her up on this date with this guy named Robert. Robert's 65. He's been divorced twice. He's been single for 16 years himself. He's got one kid and he's a sound mixer. So I don't know. He's coming from the music era, music genre. So maybe they're going to have something in common because we know that Pam's whole family is musical. But boy, he can't get in a word edgewise. He can't get a word. I mean, she's talking a mile a minute. And this man starts to get pissed off that she can't talk. She's telling all her negative stories about how she pissed off at the world and, she mad at people because they out here building. They need to be building trains because they building too many cars. These are not first date conversations. And all this negativity is a turnoff. And then she ain't asking nothing about this man. And this man like, you don't know nothing about me. You ain't asking me no questions. He's out of sorts too. I can tell why he's been single for 16 years too, because let me tell you, as much as Pam talked, as all over the place as she was, she would have rubbed me wrong too. But this man started to get downright rude and nasty. They both ain't got no social skills. Both of them need to go home and do some work on those social skills because although Pam was out the box, the way he handled it was all wrong. I mean, to tell these two almost started, well, I don't say they was darn near bickering at the table. And he was like, I need to tell you about yourself. You don't know nothing about me. You ain't asked no questions. So when she started trying to ask him some questions, then he had a nasty attitude to him. So now you want to know something about me? Oh my goodness. They was going at it. She over here talking about people trying to get rid of middle class. He started trying to talk about that he's also a financial advisor. I tell you, it was a hot mess of a conversation. It was they was like oil and water. They was oil and water, and this man couldn't get out of here soon enough. This man wanted to end this day so fast. He's like, I gotta go. And she was like, why you gotta go so soon? Because he don't want to talk to her no more. Not at all. She over here talking about, did you know that Americans only use a third of their brain, but Egyptians use one half? Girl, what kind of trivia is this? This is some backwoods Atlanta kind of trivia. I mean, at this point, before Pam even starts dating, she got to learn just to be around people, period. People, period. She may not even need to really go out on no dates with men. I think dating is too big of a step for Pam. Logan, as the professional, I know you're the professional, but what I want to say is before Pam starts dating, Pam needs to learn just to be around people, period. Because her conversation really isn't even appropriate even for girlfriends. People, period. She's so used to talking to birds and chickens or whatever else she got out there, wildlife. She doesn't really even know how to have a conversation with people. So I would say before she starts dating, She needs to start learning how to have a conversation with humans. And this guy, he was like, she's 180 degrees different than what I am, and this ain't gonna work. He gave her a kiss on the cheek and said, she's way too hyper. She don't listen, and she don't ask me no questions, and she don't want to know nothing about me. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. He said, nope, I've had enough. I've had enough. But they don't take my advice. They don't let her just learn how to talk to other people. They put her on another date. So she ends up going out with this other guy named Paul for 62. He's 62 years old. He never been married and got no kids, and he's a singer-songwriter. Woo! I was like, this ain't gonna go well. This is not gonna go well. But to my surprise, they got along really well. And they told her, listen, when you go out with him, I think one of the very, very good advice they gave her, which is something I think is very good advice, is that focus on being interested and not being interesting, right? I thought that was very good advice, because I think one thing that Pam does is she talks a mile a minute and she tries to focus on being interesting. It's the same thing I actually said about Anise. Anise is focused on being interesting. That's why I call it a flex, as opposed to being interested. And what draws people to you is when they feel like you're interested in them, right? So I think both people have to be interested in the other person, right? Asking good questions that make you show you're interested in them, not asking questions just so you could talk about yourself. It's very, very different asking questions to really get to know a person versus asking questions so now you could flex on them or give some of your interesting points. So they tell her, listen, focus on being interested and not being interesting. And I think that really helped her. So when she went out on this date with this next guy, I think she settled down a little bit. Because remember, she's really, really rusty. She is. So I'm going to give her that. She settled down a little bit more. So the date went a lot better. He's from Seattle. So they talked a little bit about, they talked a little bit about the weather. She started talking about, how she used to fly. And one thing I did notice about her, she slouches a lot. Like literally when she was sitting on that date with that guy, she was slouching in her chair like she was sitting at home on her sofa. I mean, it's almost like a person that's been drinking so much and now she just drunk and barely can sit up. Oh, the posture was horrible. It was horrible. Like I said, I think she needs to learn how to be out in public, period. And she did say that it was just good to be out. It was good to be out, going out on a date. It was good to be interacting with people. I probably would really pull Pam back from dating and just actually start planning more outings with her, getting her out, meeting more people, women first, learning how to be out in public, learning how to sort of, get back and know appropriateness and inappropriateness, because her conversations are inappropriate. Kind of the way she's kind of appearing out here sometimes can have some inappropriateness to her. There's a lot more she needs to learn before she goes out on dates. But anyway, you know what? They said the date went okay with this guy. But in the end, he kind of said, well, if she's down with it, I'm down with it too. That's not really an enthusiastic to me, like he really liked it. That was more like, well, if she want to do it, I'll do it too. Like I ain't got nothing better to do, so I guess I will go out with her again. I don't know. When they left the restaurant, she was so awkward. She grabbed the man's face and kissed him real quick. He was overwhelmed by it. He was like, oh my God, what was that? It was just a lot of awkward behavior from Pam. It really was. And he says he likes to do a lot of open mic because he's a singer-songwriter. So they say they're going to have another date and she's going to go up there and maybe be in the audience. And she says she's going to be the one that boos him. He was like, please don't do that. Like I said, she got some weird things she says. She kind of inappropriate. And so he says, please don't do that. And she goes, aha, she's laughing like it's all funny and everything. But I don't know. It's going to be a special type of person who can put up with Pam. But I think she maybe needs to take a step back from dating and first just learn how to be around people, period. Because she's almost like a hermit. A hermit. And then lastly, we got introduced to a new lady. Her name is Lori. She's 57 years old. And she riding around talking about one thing she don't like about this new era is men who be texting you, good morning, beautiful. Good morning, beautiful. And she said, you need to use my name because if you just texted me good morning, beautiful, that's why I know it's a mass text. You right about that, Lori. You right about that. There are a lot of men out here sending out these mass texts, and they send it out to multiple women, a good morning, beautiful, and they don't be using your name. If you get a good morning, beautiful, but your name ain't in there and ain't nothing unique to you, then you know he's sending it to multiple women. All these cheaters out here doing the same old techniques, and Lori is right. But Lori has been married and divorced. She's been single for 15 years. She got 2 kids. She works with, I think, something with children or kids or something, but she also is a celebrity media personality, something called the Rich Auntie. And she hosts a lot of gala and events. And she's a pretty social lady. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta. She attends events, and she around a lot of people a lot of times. And she's like, I'm around all these people, but I never don't meet no men. No men never really approach her or ask her out because I'm going to tell you, Lori, you give off homie vibes. You absolutely give off homie vibes. And she says she's really hated dating, but she needs to make it a priority. Well, I could tell you hate dating because you don't really like to do nothing to appeal to no man in dating, because Lori's out here appealing to herself, which is fine. That's fine. You want to appeal to yourself, but if you want to attract someone to your life, attraction means you have to do things to appeal to someone else. And right now, Lori, maybe for the last 15 years, has been doing what she needs to do to be successful at her career or as a mother or whatever else. She hasn't given much work into trying to appeal to someone else. And what she wants to do is just show up exactly who she is and find someone who wants that from her. And like I said, I've always said on my videos, that's one of the big problems is people have told people, just be yourself, show up exactly who you are, and then look for a person who wants you just as you are. It's such bad advice. It's such bad advice because even if you find someone who likes you exactly as you are, which I don't think you can, everyone has to change. What happens when you change? Because everybody changes. Everyone changes and develops new parts of their personality at least every 5 years. So when you found that person who likes you exactly as you are, that way you don't have to change. You don't have to find a way to blend with someone else. What happens when you change or they're changed in 5 years? Now you don't know how to adapt to each other. This is why relationships break up. This is why marriages only last 5 years, 7 years, because once you start changing every 5 years, now all of a sudden, none of you really knew how to adjust to each other. Now you don't know how to do it. So what do? You break up with each other, you get a divorce. Now you go out and look for someone else who can accept you just as you are. Get rid of the idea that you're going to find someone who likes you just as you are. Learn how to be adaptable. Learn how to mold with a different person. Learn how to adapt. This is how you build longevity in friendships, relationships, because what you learn how to do is to integrate with the times. Even in this dating, why I called it stuck in the past, it's people who are stuck with one way of doing things and therefore they're getting left behind. You can't be stuck. You got to learn to adapt. You got to learn how to have conversations with different types of people. You got to learn how to like different types of things, enjoy different types of things, be able to experience different types of things. Be open to people who think differently than you. It doesn't even mean you have to agree with them, but you got to be open enough to at least be willing to listen to them, be willing to understand a person who thinks differently. It doesn't mean that you have to become them, but you do have to have a level of understanding. And a lot of people, as they get older, they don't even want to understand how people can think differently. So I want to say to Lori that, Lori, you're going to have to start appealing to the type of people that you want in your life, because right now I don't see a lot of effort from Lori to appeal to someone different. And I think that's what she's starting to realize that she needs to do, which is good. And she said right now, she works a lot. She comes home. When she pulls her car into her driveway, sometimes she just closes the door and sits in her garage for a whole hour in order just to have a little bit of peace. And I thought that was sort of sad. In fact, I was thinking, girl, I hope you ain't sitting in the garage with the garage door closed. Can't you get carbon monoxide poison like that? But the fact that she sits in the car for an hour before she walks into her own home, I was like, is her house full of chaos? But I think the only person she might live with is her son. But I think it's the loneliness of the house. I think it's that when she's out in the street and she's out and about and she's doing all of these things with the social media and her job and her sorority, that she's surrounded by people and that's where her excitement comes from. But then when she goes in her house, she experiences loneliness. And that made me pretty sad. It made me think that the reason she's sitting in her car is not to get peace. The reason she's sitting in her car is because she doesn't want to face sort of the loneliness of her house. That's just how I saw it. And I thought that was pretty sad. And she said, you know what? She really does want someone to come home to. And it's so interesting because when she was sitting at the table and she was talking to her son, and she was telling her son that she believes that she's going to need someone that's not so intimidated by her. You know, maybe that's what I think that's what her son or her no, her daughter was saying that. Her daughter was saying that, you know, she needs someone that's not so intimidated by her. And I really wish people would stop using this word intimidated. No one's intimidated by people. But people are confusing not interested with intimidated. It's not intimidation. And you know, Anise used this word too, that men are intimidated by her PhD. No, it's not intimidation. What it is they're just not interested. They don't find it as of much value as you do. You know, people think, oh, because I'm not valuing your PhD or I'm not valuing whatever they think, it doesn't mean that, or I'm not valuing your strength or I'm not valuing how strong you appear in the world. It doesn't mean I'm intimidated by you. It just means that I'm not interested in it in my life. That is completely two different things. People need to get rid of this word intimidation because they're really using it the wrong way. And so I don't know if Lori is walking around here saying everyone's intimidated by her, because if that's what you're telling yourself, then the way you try to fix that in the world probably is all wrong. If you think people are intimidated by you, then what you do is maybe you hold back by telling them certain things, but then you feel like you're the one that's dimming your light. Like that's what Anise said. Men are intimidated by my PhD, so I don't tell them about it. That's two different things. No, I'm not intimidated by your PhD. It's just, how do you use that in your life, right? You could talk about anything about you, but it's a matter of how you present it to other people. I think that's the difference. And so I don't know if Lori leads with all her social accomplishments, the fact that she is in the limelight and the fact that she's well known, and now all of a sudden that's what that they feel people are intimidated by. I really, really don't know. But what she's basically saying is she gets put in the friend zone a lot. She likes this one guy, his name is Felton, but she says that Felton done put her in the friend zone and she don't know how to get out the friend zone because she got homie vibes, y'all. She really giving homie vibes. She's not giving romantic type of vibes. And I think she says she needs to learn how to get into her femininity. That's what she's saying. And so her son said, yeah, I do think you need a dating coach. And Lori starts laughing and said, you think I need a dating coach? He goes, yeah, you need a dating coach. And, you know, the dating coach comes on over to her house. She's showing the dating coach around the house. She's showing the dating coach, you know, all her little things around the house. And she has a lot of candles. She says she loves her candles to smell well. And she says some of the scents in her home are scents of a more masculine scents, because she says she likes her home to smell like the smell of a man. What, girl? You like your home to have the scent of a smell of a man. So that means if a man did come to your house, he got to smell another man. Like I said, Lori has a lot of people's problem. That is, she has shaped her life to accommodate her, but her life isn't shaped to attract a man. If a man comes into your house, the last thing he wants to do is to smell a candle that smells like another man. He's going to want to smell a candle that smells like a woman. He's going to want to smell a candle that smells like, I don't know, some food cooking. It ain't going to be the smell of a man. So first of all, Lori, you need to change the scent in your house to be from smelling a man to smell more feminine. If you want to get into your femininity and start getting in touch with your femininity, then start ushering it into your life. And maybe one of the first things you could do is change your candle scent. That would be my first suggestion. Go out and get you some candles that smell more I don't know, less manly. Because this don't make no sense. So then another thing that the dating coach touched on, which I thought was good, this dating coach, she picks up on a lot of stuff. She started asking her about her children, and she said, well, my children are both introverted, her daughter and her son. And the behavioral coach said, isn't that interesting that you raised two introverted children? Boom, there it is. Boom. I love this behavioral coach. She doesn't go all the way and tell them everything. She needs to go a little bit deeper with them, because what she's trying to get Lori to see is people are intimidated by you. What you do is you overwhelm them, you overrun them. You see, you've created introverted children because your personality is so big, you take up all the room in the house. You take up so much space in the room that people have to shrink around you. And now what you've decided and you start to think is that men are intimidated by you because they're shrinking behind you. No, they're shrinking behind you is because you take up too much space in the room. And then when maybe someone pushes back on you to try to muscle their way in to take up more space, what then you do is say, oh, you must be pushing back on me because you intimidated by me. Why are you coming at me like this? You must be intimidated by my strength. No, because what people have to do is they have to fight you to have a little bit of space in the room. And people don't want to do that all the time. She's mistaking people being intimidated by her when people shrink and people go into a shell, that it's because they're intimidated by her. No, people don't want to always have to fight you. And now she done raised two introverted children who just say, okay, mama, you can have the floor. Okay, mama, you can go ahead and you can talk and you can be big and you can take up all the room and we'll just sit over here in the corner and we'll just shrink behind you. And then when she asked her son, I think she asked her son something about, would you date me? And you know what her son told her? No, I wouldn't date you. There you go. I've talked about this a lot with a lot of women, that when your sons start dating, do they choose a woman like you? And a lot of sons don't. All these strong, independent women that have raised sons, a lot of these men then go out and want to find women who are softer, who listen to them. Because what they don't is they appreciate the mothers who took care of them. They appreciate the mothers who had to go out and take care of them on their own, sometimes working 1 and 2 jobs. But they don't like the bossiness of that woman. And when they go out into the dating world, they start looking for a woman that's completely opposite of the mother. And then the mother is she's kind of offended by it. She's kind of offended by it because it is a rejection of her. It is in one way, I love you, mother. I love the things that you did for me, right? But I also reject it because I don't want it for the mother of my children, for my wife, right? And so what that son told her is, no, I wouldn't want to marry a woman like you. I admire your strength because it took care of us, but it's not the person I would want to be in a relationship with. And when your son is telling you he wouldn't want to be in a relationship with you, then maybe you can understand why there's some men who don't want to be in a relationship with you. You see, maybe then you could understand it. And that's what I mean. You're going to have to change to appeal to men if, in fact, you're not able to attract men unto you. You're going to have to change. It's not going to be about finding the right man. It's going to be about you changing first. You know, when the expert was trying to ask her what type of guy are you looking for, she was like, oh, I want a friend to hang out with. I want someone's going to be my best friend. Well, there you go. Men are going to look for a romantic partner first. First, friendship second. I hate to tell you. So here you are appealing to the man in terms of I want a friend. So you're appealing to him in a friendly way, a friend zone way. Well, guess what happens? You're going to get friend zoned. No, you got to appeal to a man on both ends. One, that yes, you're a person who could be a friend, who he could get along with, he could spend his time with, but you also got to appeal to his romantic side. Okay, the sexiness side. Where is that? Where is that, Lori? You ain't bringing none of that whatsoever. None of it. I don't see it at all. I see complete homie and friend stuff from you. And she wonders why she always in the friend zone. And even when the expert was trying to tell her, listen, I know you got these big old glasses on, but you look like a character. When that expert told her she looked like a character, I was like, thank you, expert. Those glasses are so large, they basically take up her whole face. She already has a small head and the glasses are oversized. And when the expert tried to give her some advice, what did she say? I'm not changing. There you go. I'm not changing. She didn't want to take no advice. This is why people don't get better. This is why people don't get to the next level of where they're trying to go to, because when people come along and give them advice, they don't want to take none of the advice. I thought it was good advice that the expert said is you need to make yourself more welcoming to a man. And one of the things I see is not only is it in your demeanor, your personality, it's also in your style. Those glasses make you look like you got on a mask. And I agreed with the expert. I agree with her. But what I didn't like that Lori did was she shut her down immediately and said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Stubborn. Very, very stubborn. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with a stubborn person that's not even willing to consider maybe getting another pair of glasses. I'm not even saying you got to wear that second set of glasses all the time, but could we possibly get another set of glasses that you wear on dates or somewhere else? Can we do that? Is there a compromise where you can still keep the pair that you have, but we can also get some other pair? Or you just shut me down completely? Because if you just shut me down completely on this point, I can't even get to the other points. I can't help you. I can't help you when you don't even want to try something simple as in getting a second pair of glasses that maybe you can wear on dates. Ugh, this is ridiculous, Lori. This is ridiculous. And that expert said it right. You basically reject people before they can even reject you. There you go. There you go. Because she just rejected you, Lori, and you not even here as no love interest. I mean, Logan. Lori just rejected Logan, and Logan ain't even a love interest. She rejected her. She shut her down real quick over a simple suggestion regarding those glasses. So the expert said, we got some work to do. We got to learn how to get her into her soft life. Woo, you got a lot of work to do, Logan. And to tell her she don't always have to be in control. She can let go of the reins sometimes. You know, a lot of people trying to say, this is the other thing I want to say I think is not true. A lot of people want to blame being a single mother on why they're so tough and why they like to be in control, because what they want to say is, I had to be this way because I was a single mother. I'm going to challenge that because I think a lot of people became single mothers because they like to be in control. Hear me again. A lot of people want to say, oh no, I used to be in my soft life. I used to be this woman that, was easy to get along with, that wasn't so in control. And then what happened was it didn't work for me. And so then I became a single mother. So then I had to be more in control, more bossy, more whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think these people were always bossy and always in control. And that's also what led their relationships to fall apart. And then they became single mothers and then they just had to do more of it. That's what I think. I think their nature was to be in control. It rubbed people the wrong way in relationships. And then when they became single and single mothers, they had to rely upon that part of them even more so. So as a result, it became more enforced. It became more pronounced. I do believe that. But you rarely see people who are very, very feminine, even if they become divorced and they're single mothers, they still stay there. They don't all of a sudden become very controlling. It just, you don't normally see that. You don't normally see that. So a lot of people want to say, I have to be this worried for work. I have to be this worried because I'm a single mother. That's a cop out. You don't have to be this way, period. You don't. Stop trying to pretend like you have to be in control, tough, strong, independent because your job requires it of you. It's not true. There's a lot of feminine women in the job market, and they don't have to be that way all the time. There are a lot of mothers who can be feminine and soft and still get respect. It's not true. It's what you're telling yourself so that you don't have to change. You're saying that there's no other space for you. You can't be anything differently. No, it's because you don't want to do the hard work. It is very hard changing old habits. It's very hard. It's not easy. So it's easy to say, I got to be this way. That way you never have to change, when the truth is it's not true. There's a lot of room for a lot of personalities in this world, and it doesn't require women to always be tough and independent and in control and controlling. It's just not true. It's a story. It's a narrative people are telling themselves, but it's not true. And it's really holding you back from being in a relationship with people, because when you show up the same way all the time, people don't want to deal with that all the time. People don't know the price to be in your company is too high. It's too high. So people are going to start limiting the amount of time they want to be in your company because they only can deal with you so long. Yeah, for your girlfriends, it's okay because your girlfriends don't live with you. Your girlfriends just go out with you every once in a while. They can deal with your controlling behavior every once in a while, but they don't want to live with you. And if you're going to have a man that you're going to live with, he'd have to live with you. It's a difference between being in a friendship with a person who's controlling and strong and independent and stubborn versus being in a relationship with that person. We all got controlling friends or family members or whatever, but you know what? You're not around them all the time. It's easy to deal with that for 2 hours or 3 hours. But some of those people, you don't want to travel with them. You definitely don't want to be married to them. You definitely wouldn't want to live with them, but you love them. It's like what her son said. I love you, mom. You know what? I can see he loves his mother. He wants to be around his mother. He never not want to be with his mother. But what he said is, I wouldn't want to be married to you. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with you. And when I get a chance to be in a relationship with a woman, I'm going to make sure she's not like you. That should be a wake-up call. That should be a wake-up call. If you're struggling in dating and you got a son at home, go ask your son, would you date me? Go ask your son, would he date you? And give him the freedom to really tell you the truth. And I know a lot of people want to always shut down what other people's opinions are, but maybe you should go listen. Listen to your young kids. If you're older and you're dating, listen to your young kids and ask them, would you date me? And see what they say, because that might be your beginning. That might be your beginning. But anyway, y'all, that's all we got. This was episodes 2 and 3. I'm going to catch up on episodes 4 and 5, and I'll see you next time for that recap review. Talk to y'all later. Bye.